There are two parts of the world right now that are on sale if you have US dollars, and international diversification is now at a discount. I'm going to tell you how to do it. Back at the beginning of the pandemic, just over 2 years ago, holding US dollars meant you had a tremendous opportunity because every other fiat currency pretty much was on sale. Euros all the way on down to emerging world currencies. Everything was on sale compared to the dollar. Now, if you had Bitcoin and crypto, or if you had gold, that did well as well. But against the fiat currencies, the dollar was the place to be. And I said back then that this was an opportunity to open that foreign bank account, buy that real estate in another country, invest into stocks or whatever else in another country, get a residence permit, get a citizenship, anything where you could take dollars and buy cheaper foreign currency. There was now 5, 10, 15% discounts on diversification. Some of those opportunities have gone, but some are now back as the dollar strengthens against a number of different currencies. I'm going to tell you where they are. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consultancy that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally reduce their taxes overseas, protect their assets, and increase their options with things like diversified portfolios, second citizenship. I'm also the host of the biggest and best offshore conference called Nomad Capitalist Live. Now, one of the areas where a lot of people were interested in 2 years ago was Latin America. Mexico, the peso was on sale. Colombia, the peso was on sale. Brazil hit all-time lows, as I recall, against the US dollar. There was a discount all around Latin America. And what's interesting about Latin America is you've got a lot of residence permanent opportunities where you can buy relatively affordable real estate, or where you just need to show a certain amount of income to get in. And so it was a great time to go down there and scoop up a property in a place like Brazil and hold that. If you would have done that, you would have seen some decent gains, not only because properties in some of these countries have done very well, but because the currencies have rebounded. And if you look at a stock portfolio, for example, I have a Latin America fund that's done very well in recent months, largely because those currencies have come surging back. So those opportunities aren't nearly as good. So you see the Colombian peso now much more holding its own. Let's talk about two parts of the world where you still can get deals. The first region where you can get a deal right now is Europe. Many countries in Europe obviously use the euro as their currency. Those that don't often sell real estate in euros, and so the fluctuations of their own local currency aren't as readily apparent. The euro is looking rather weak against the dollar right now. In fact, it is basically, if you look over the last 2 years, it is right back where it was during the worst parts, and even weaker than it was during the worst parts of the pandemic. You're down in the $1.07 range against the US dollar, down from as much as $1.21, $1.22 within the last year. And so what that means is, if you want to open a bank account in Europe, if you want to get a golden visa in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, in Latvia, you can do that. If you need to prove an income to move to a country in Europe, unlike many countries in Latin America, which might dollarize those numbers even though they have their own currency, Europe obviously uses the euro, and so your dollars can go further. All right, you can show more income, you can show higher bank balances in euro terms, and if you need to make an investment, then that's now a lot more affordable. And so when you're talking about a 500,000 euro investment, for example, for a golden visa program, I mean, going from $1.20 to $1.07, that's a relatively substantial savings. When you look at Malta's citizenship program, for example, the only place in the European Union where you can get citizenship in less than 18 months by making a donation, you're going to donate starting at 750,000 euros if you want to get it done at that speed for one person. That cost is now like 6 figures cheaper than it was less than a year ago. And considering how Europe is threatening to pull back on some of these programs, threatening to make them either less desirable or get rid of them entirely, now may be a good time to lock in your ability to hold residence in Europe, lock in your citizenship in Europe, and you can do so at a discount. Maybe you just want to buy a lifestyle property somewhere in Europe. Maybe it's not tied to a residence permit. Other countries of interest to clients that we've talked to in Europe, Serbia, the dinar, now at a multi-year low against the US dollar. It's about to touch 110 to 1. It had always been around that 100 to 1 level. And so Serbia, if you buy property there, you can get a residence permit. You can do business, you can hire people there. So certainly people who've been looking for freedom, people who are looking for more affordable real estate investments in Europe. Property in Serbia has been going crazy in the last 2 years. And so I'm not saying there's any particular deals there, but certainly you'll buy most property there in euros. But if you're doing business locally, if you're doing, if you're hiring people there, it is more affordable to do that now that you're down to 110 to the dollar. And so people have been going there and buying stuff there. In Croatia, the kuna is a little bit weaker. Turkey is a country that people look at. The lira is certainly continuously weakening against the dollar, although it's off the worst of the December 2021 lows against the US dollar when it got up to 18.5. Now it's closer to 16. Obviously, that's consistently weaker when it was like 7.5 2 years ago. And there was just a time it fell off a cliff in late 2020. It's been weakening for some time. The challenge that I see in a country like Turkey is that people are very much tied to foreign currency if you're buying property in the right area. So let's say you want to go and get citizenship in Turkey. It's now a 400,000 US dollar investment. They're going to tie that to the value in lira. So if it's 16, that means you're looking at 6.4 million Turkish lira. A lot of the good properties have kept up. The dollar strengthens against the lira, the properties go up in lira terms. So you're not necessarily saving as much in Turkey potentially, at least if you're doing it right, than you would by just getting the currency deal, the boost in the dollar against the euro in Europe. So Europe, with the euro, the Serbian dinar, and to some lesser extent the Turkish lira, are offering deals. Lots of opportunities, again, for your golden visa or for direct citizenship. You can do that, potentially save 6 figures over a year ago. Now, the second part of the world that right now is on sale is Asia. You have currencies like the Singapore dollar, where they're very much range bound. It's at the very lower point of the range. So rather than 1.35, it's now at 1.37. And so if you're looking at opening a bank account in Singapore, they are slowly reopening to where if you were to go there, you could open a bank account. You're looking at mid 6-figure deposit. And so you're going to save a little bit of money on meeting the Sing dollar requirement, but it's nothing really substantial. Where you are going to find more substantial deals, Malaysia, Thailand, South Korea, and in a big way, Japan. So Malaysia is not at all-time lows against the dollar, but it has been weakening recently. And so as Malaysia reopens, their MM2H program, which was revamped recently, has become cheaper. It's a 1 million ringgit deposit in the bank. So there certainly is what some people would call an opportunity cost there, saying that you're only going to make 1.5% perhaps on that money. But the amount of dollars you need to buy those ringgit has now gone down. The amount of income, 40,000 ringgit a month that new MM2H applicants need, becomes a little bit easier. If you're on some kind of fixed income, it's going to become a little bit easier in ringgit terms because I've been there. They just have a little chart. Here's the value today. All right, great. Take it out the calculator. In you go. And so it becomes a little bit cheaper in terms of the investment part. You are seeing, I think Malaysia is one of the better deals. If you're not looking to sell for the short or mid-term, you can get very affordable lifestyle property in Malaysia, even less in a good neighborhood than you might find in Istanbul, certainly less than you would find in Bangkok or Manila. And I think Kuala Lumpur is a much more developed city in some regards than a lot of the other cities in Southeast Asia. You can pay as little as $1,500 per square meter. What I paid in mid-2020 was, one of the best deals I've gotten. It was rivaling Tbilisi, Georgia prices per meter in great neighborhood, great quality, great buildings. You can also buy homes in Malaysia. You can own land in Malaysia, one of the few countries you can own land in Asia. And so a lot of opportunities in Asia, even though the residence program became substantially more expensive in 2021, the currency is now weaker. And if you can lock in that lower value, it will reduce your cost. Next door in Thailand, the Thai baht is back up to about 34 against the dollar. It has not seen that level in some time. And so let's say you want the Thai investor visa. It's a 10 million baht investment. You can put that in bank, you can put that in bonds, you can put that in new real estate. And so real estate in Thailand, especially in Bangkok, is expensive. It's hard to recommend unless you just really want to live there and you really want to own. I'm a fan of owning property. It gives you that diversification. For citizens of many countries, you don't need to report property that you own overseas if you don't generate income from it. So the baht back at 34 to the dollar, it's a deal. That makes that 10 million baht investment cheaper. If you're looking at the Thai elite visa, it's going to become just a little bit cheaper. It might become 16,000 versus 17,000 not so long ago. So you're getting a deal. Obviously, living in these countries is going to become cheaper as well. You have inflation in many places in the world. At least you can save money on cost of living, whether it's Kuala Lumpur, Phuket, or a place like Portugal, for example. So the Thai baht is now cheaper. They've got numerous programs to move in. Real estate opportunities not so good. Korea, a country that is not talked about that much, but does have its own residence by investment program that can lead to citizenship. Most people wouldn't bother to get that because there's no dual citizenship. You really need to learn Korean. You really need to integrate. But as a residence, not a bad moderate tax, developed Asia residence program for folks who like Asia. They don't want to be part of the EU. They don't want to be part of the West. They like the idea of Asia, but maybe parts of Southeast Asia aren't quite as developed for them. Korea offers a program where starting at, for most folks, 500 million Korean won, you can get residence. And so now that you see the won back down in the mid to high 1200s against the US dollar, I think about 1250, that's a $400,000 deal. It wasn't that long ago that it was down at about 1100. So you've seen a substantial jump and a decline against the dollar where that residence program is now less expensive. You can lock that in. It is not a program where you really need to live there for a substantial part of time. For someone who wants to have a high-level Asian residence program in their back pocket where you can become an actual permanent resident. Some of these programs in Southeast Asia, like the Thai Elite Visa, you're just going to basically be on a glorified tourist visa forever. Is that a problem? No, because I think a country like Thailand wants your dollars. They want people coming in. They just don't want tourists coming in on tourist visas, but they'll happily, take your money for a Thai Elite visa. If you have an investor visa, you can basically renew that indefinitely. They will allow you to stay there. But for folks who want the feeling of more permanence, a place like Korea potentially offers that. And so now you can get that at a discount. It's going to be, mid five-figure discount in dollar terms over where it was just about a year ago. The Japanese yen, lastly, is basically at an all-time low against the US dollar. It is touching 130 to 1. I remember the first time I went to Japan, I think it was like in the 70s against the US dollar. And then I got up to 100, and then it kind of hovered. I mean, it did get up in the 120s, I think, in the mid-2010s, but it kind of hovered like 110, 111 in that range for a long, long time. And recently you've seen it surge up to this kind of all-time low against the dollar, 130. Now, what does Japan have to offer? Not citizenship. There's no dual. It's hard to get unless you're married to someone. Being a citizen, even being a permanent resident, is a big challenge for tax. They've got a state tax. They follow you around after you've lived there for enough years. But what people are talking about is if you can go there as a tourist, let's say you have a Western passport, or let's say you get Turkey citizenship by investment. Now you can go to Japan. And so if you go there as a tourist, you can theoretically spend part of your year there, let's say it's a part of a trifecta plan. You can buy property very affordably. And so if you want to own, especially if you want to be kind of in a suburban environment, there's a really cheap property that like nobody wants. It's almost like the Greece of Asia in some ways, where people are like, no, I don't want this inherited property. Please take it away. Or they take it and they just want to dump it. And you can buy property extremely cheaply in some parts of Japan. And so with the yen down, it becomes even cheaper. I would definitely be careful spending too much time there. But I know there's some people who think that there is a play in Japan. Whether I believe that, I'm not so sure. But not really an immigration play, but just an affordable lifestyle real estate play for some folks who like the idea of Japan. So Europe and Asia, two parts of the world where your dollars are getting you more. You could get 10 or even somewhere in the teens % more. You're seeing currencies in South and Central America strengthen. Also, by the way, in some Eastern European countries, the Armenian dram strengthened recently to 5 or 6 year highs against the dollar. The Georgian lari has come back against the dollar. Those are higher yielding currencies that you can get if you're looking. It was a deal that I was buying more dram and lari a number of months ago. And so, do those continue to appreciate? It's anyone's guess. But for what's happening right now, Western Europe, Asia, definitely on sale, and you can get some deep discounts. It may be a time to build some of your diversification options at a cheaper price.